How would you define dye migration and what causes it?
Well, what you're probably referring to is something that we're wrestling with along with all other printers for the most part. And over the last probably 10 years, there's been kind of a move towards, I suppose, performance fabrics is what folks call them, but more or less more polyester in the way of blends or even 100% polyester types of products. And what we can get through some of our inks, particularly plastisols, is the dyes from the fabrics will actually release at a lower temperature than our inks will cure. So when we're trying to cure our inks, the dyes will actually come up through those inks, and it doesn't matter how many times we print flash, we're actually adding heat to the equation, and those dyes can continue to come up through the inks and turn like a white print on a red fabric, will turn real pink on us.
Can the quality of your garments be the culprit? What about the ink?
You know, I think it's easy sometimes as printers to try to blame the garment itself, and the easy answer to that question is sure, the quality of the garment has everything to do with it, but it's more or less part of the manufacturing process from what I understand. And ultimately, the people building the fabrics, dyeing the fabrics, aren't necessarily concerned with whether we can print on them or not. So the idea that maybe the dyes release at a, say 300 degrees and we're trying to cure at 325, that's not really necessarily a garment quality problem. It's just our inability to cure at a lower temperature than the fabric wants to release those unset dyes at that higher temperature. So I suppose it's kind of a double-edged sword there in that, yeah, a lot of times very cheap polyester garments will bleed worse or dye migrate worse than more expensive fabrics. And there's fabrics that have a treatment on them now that are trying to protect us as printers through some of the dealers and we're supposed to say distributor. Dealer is probably not a good way to describe our providers. But and then when you get to the ink itself, a lot of the manufacturers are pushing the cure temperatures down. So even with plastisols, there's low cure, low fusing inks that'll cure at the 270, 280 range. And now if we have a 300 degree release of the dyes, we're well below that. We don't have to worry about it. So there's a lot of effort to drive the temperatures down on those inks so we don't hit that threshold. Now sometimes they maybe will release at an even lower temperature, and there's some formulas for that as well. Silicone products are helpful when running some polyester fabrics because they'll begin to cross over or cross-link at 250, so we can even drop the temperatures even lower. So there are some methods to getting around it. There's, even in the plastisol world, in the water-based world, there's blockers, and silicone has them as well, but they've got carbon in them that literally will block the dyes. Typically, if you still get bleed through a carbon-based blocker, you can't block it. Ultimately, you may have to go to a different fabric if that's happening. So there is an effort by the ink manufacturers to drive cure temperatures down, but it's still on us as printers to actually monitor and keep track of our dryer temperatures and our ink film cure temperatures, the thickness of that ink film, how long they're in the chamber, all those kinds of things then comes back onto the printer. But there are tools out there that are helping us try to overcome those fabrics that are difficult to block.
What questions can decorators ask their ink and apparel manufacturers to avoid this?
There are a number of the distributors I wouldn't say a number, I know of at least one distributor making a product that is built for the printer, where they put a coating. I can't give you the specific name of that because I, off the top of my head, don't remember it. But those fabrics will hold up and don't bleed nearly as bad. I always hesitate to say won't bleed at all, but won't bleed nearly as bad as some of the other fabrics. Now, because of the additional process, they're more expensive than some of those cheaper fabrics that might bleed. And then again, asking the ink manufacturers for their low cure version, or sometimes they might be a polyester version or something where we get the temperatures down. And all the ink manufacturers are developing or have developed products that are built especially for that arrangement. because the transition to all these fabrics, many have had, like maybe call it a poly white or a polyester white ink that's got blocking stuff in it, from peroxides to blockers and different agents in them as well. But the magic over the last couple of years has been to drive our temperatures down. If we can get temperatures down below that threshold, whatever that might be, and that's part of the difficulty, is trying to figure out what the threshold is. So you got to test. If it bleeds on you, you got to come up with a different application. We're always looking for a kind of a magic bullet, or we call it kind of a magic bucket of ink. Today we probably use 4, 5, 6 different whites on different fabrics because they're built differently. So you can't. We used to use the term AP, all-purpose white. We had an AP white, and we used it on everything. That's just not the way we can do it these days. We have to use products specifically built for products that may bleed at a lower temperature.
What other steps can decorators take to best avoid dye migration?
The magic is controlling dryer temperatures and chamber times. So if you can plot your dryers and get an idea of where the temperatures have to reach, if our ink is designed to reach 270, 280, we want to just reach that. We don't necessarily just, we got away with over curing cotton. If we needed to reach 325 in a traditional plastisol sense, we would reach 350 and say, yeah, it's like 2 Advil. If 2's good, 4's got to be better. And we got away with it. The problem with poly is if it's 270, 280, 290, whatever the cure temperature is designed for, we push it to 325, we've kind of blown the whole idea of a low fusion, low cure ink. So it all comes down, the responsibility comes to the printer on monitoring dryer temperatures and minimizing the heat.